Hello everyone, welcome to the Honey and Absinthe movie review where we review Knock at the Cabin.
We are your host. I'm Vincent, a background designer for the Hollywood animation industry.
And I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and let's get into it.
Janet Chan, what's M. Night Shyamalan's new movie about?
Knock at the Cabin is about a family is invaded by 4 strangers that want them to believe they have to sacrifice a member of their family in order to save the world from the apocalypse.
And like always, we're going to start with a non-spoiler part, and then a little bit later, maybe after 5-10 minutes, we're going to go into big spoilers where we go beat for beat, act for act.
I thought this movie was very okay. Bautista is great. I liked him. He is, I would say, the standout role in this movie. It has a very interesting premise. If you like semi-thrilling horror movies and having a fun time, turn off your brain kind of thing, it's very alright. Where I think it lacks is it's not, to my standards, that's scary.
It's not very thrilling.
Yeah. It's not very violent, which you'd expect a R-rated.
It's rated R.
Yeah.
But it teeters somewhere between rated R and PG-13, I'd say.
I really expected it to go harder if it wanted to win me over. So for me, even though it's a really interesting premise with pretty decent acting in my opinion, and a pretty okay cinematography from M. Night Shyamalan, at the end of the day it kind of falls flat for me.
I really enjoyed Bautista's performance, but I feel like they could have given him more to do. I really love the opening scene with Bautista and the young lady Wen, because it's like the calm before the storm. But overall, yes, I was expecting a lot more gore. I was expecting a lot more thrills. It's not exciting.
Yeah.
It doesn't give, there's not much suspense to be had. And that's about all. And as for the ending or the twists, if there is one, we're not going to say right now, but like not very satisfying,
yes,
I would say.
It doesn't end very well. So, what score would you give it?
I would give Knock at the Cabin a C. Just a C. If this were a high school assignment, I'd give it a C.
I give it a C-. Definitely, if you were bored, you had nothing better to do, watch it. If you want to support the theater during a very slow season. Otherwise, I would save your money and watch something else at home.
Where does this sit? Because you and I watched we watched almost every Shyamalan movie there was, and there's a lot.
Yes, in preparation.
In preparation for this. So where does this sit? Is it as bad as his, is it as bad as After Earth?
Oh,
is it as good as Signs or Sixth Sense? Where does it sit?
I think it sits right in the middle. It's not god awful. Like, I've recently watched The Village and The Happening.
Hey man, The Happening, if you put it in context, isn't in the worst.
It's like so bad it's
this
good.
Is actually somewhere with The Happening, I would say. What did you say?
I think it's a little bit above The Happening.
Oh, I don't know. I think The Happening might be just 1 point better than this movie.
Yeah, it sits right in the middle. It's not god awful, but it's not amazing either. So I would say it's like somewhere in the middle. If I were to rank all the M. Night Shyamalan movies, last would be After Earth. First would probably be, it's controversial, I think, to say I like Signs a lot.
Jan likes Signs a lot.
I like Signs a lot.
I like Sixth Sense. I think it's his best.
I think most people.
Yeah. It's when he had something to prove.
Yeah, so it's just somewhere in the middle. What would you say?
I would say somewhere in the middle too, and like really after thinking about it, I prefer The Happening over this movie, but they're kind of in the same league of Shyamalans. Mm-hmm. All right, so we're about to talk about spoilers. We're going to go through each and every detail. Stay tuned. Here's a word from our sponsors. And does everything around you feel like it's falling apart? You were riding the high of your niche, and now everything's hitting rock bottom. Do you know what will help you, Jim Fool? I think a good cup of coffee brand coffee, far more superior than whatever you will create. I think this will help you. I think this will give you a big fat kick in the keister and humble you. Because everybody needs a little bit of humbling sometimes, right, Jim Fool?
If you want 5% off your entire order, enter code honeyandabsinthe at checkout for 5% off your coffee order.
Enjoy your coffee enema, Jim Fool. This episode is made possible by New Masters Academy, the world's absolute #1 art school in the entire planet. Click the link down below for a free 7-day trial. Thank you, New Masters Academy. I am deep in the annals of your mind. I am deep in the annals of your... Hey everybody, welcome back to the Honey and Absinthe review for Knock at the Cabin. Good to see you again. You're looking great. I hope you are enjoying life. The apocalypse is not here, but it will come eventually. So, before we get into talking about every detail of this movie, let's talk about some expectations. What were your expectations for this M. Night Shyamalan movie, Jan Chan? And before we start everything, what do you think about M. Night Shyamalan as a auteur? Auteur. What do you think about him as an auteur?
He is definitely an auteur, but I would say he's like mid-tier. He's not to be celebrated as an auteur, I guess.
Oh, you don't think so? I think after watching his filmography, I think he is definitely better than Michael Bay. Definitely better than Zack Snyder. He has a lot of... He really tries hard, except for After Earth. But in every movie, he tries really hard and makes big, wild-ass decisions. And decisions that you and I not always are with or hip to, but at least he makes some bold decisions. So that's more than a lot of auteurs, I'd say. A lot of auteurs play it safe.
I appreciate his gusto and how hard he tries all the time. But I question his taste at the end of the day.
Be specific. What's wrong with his taste? He has a little bit of Taxi Driver in his mise-en-scène, a little bit of Scorsese, a little bit of Haneke in this movie, a little bit of,
It's just not subtle.
What did he have? He had the red balloon.
Yes.
He's watched a lot of movies. I don't think you can knock the guy for his taste. That's a little rude, don't you think? I just want you to be precise if you're going to criticize the guy.
Say that he's very obvious about his references. When he puts himself in almost every single movie, he's pulling a Hitchcock. When he's doing The Happening, he's obviously referencing Tarkovsky. When he's obviously referencing The Red Balloon and all these other movies, in his other movies, I just go like,
little on the nose.
It's very on the nose, and I have a problem with how expected some of his movies tend to be. And it's funny to say that about Shyamalan, where everyone says, "Oh, what a twist!" It's like the joke, but he has his this gimmicky twists. But then he also has his very almost so Hollywood, so typically Hollywood, the way things line up perfectly, and it's contrived. It feels, a lot of his movies feel contrived.
Okay, fair enough. So what were your expectations for this current attempt at making a Shyamalan movie? Shyamalan making a movie.
So from the trailer, I was kind of excited because he's obviously referencing Funny Games, directed by Haneke,
which is in both of our top 10 movies of all time.
Yes, it's one of my favorite directors ever. Even though, again, it's the reference is super on the nose. Okay, you watch Funny Games, I watch Funny Games. Wink, wink, nod, nod. I get it. But regardless, out of all the references you could possibly make in his prior movies, it's the most daring to be like, I'm gonna make a horror movie and I'm gonna be referencing Haneke. So I was expecting, because of that, a violent movie. I was expecting a cruel movie. And that's something I think I've been wanting, after watching all of Shyamalan's movies, I've been wanting him to do. To like, it seems like he's having like a resurgence.
Yes.
He got over this weird hump where all his movies were like critically not acclaimed. The opposite. Like, the critics hated it. He
even had, remember when he put a critic in Lady in the Water?
He had a revenge fantasy in Lady in the Water. And I was just like, poor taste, but okay. And I felt like he's finally over that with like Old. He's like getting back into things.
And watching Old, it's kind of not an easy watch, actually. It's kind of disturbing.
Yes.
It's kind of weird watching young people become pregnant in a matter of minutes and go through life super fast, and the existential crises of watching your parents die and all that shit.
Yeah.
It was really a kind of not the easiest watch. So naturally we expected, maybe M. Night would do something just as fucked up.
Yeah. You know? Or I remember I kind of liked The Visit.
Oh, yes.
It's a decently scary movie. So, like, M. Night's, like, getting back in the groove of things. And I was like, oh, you're referencing Haneke. You better give me something, like, shocking and violent. Because for me, my expectations for Shyamalan are either you play it really, really safe with certain movies, for some reason. I don't know why. They just seem so expected in Hollywood. Or you have some kind of batshit loony twist at the end, or something. Whether you like it or whether you hate it.
The aliens don't like water.
Yeah.
We've seen War of the Worlds. We've read the War of the Worlds.
He pulls something that makes you go like, oh, interesting choice. And I was expecting, because of all the hype around Bautista, for him to really flex, because he's been making the rounds doing the promotion for this movie, and he
shaded The Rock, saying that he wants to be an actor.
Fighting words.
Yeah. Compared to The Rock, who is just an action figure.
And I feel we've seen him in some movies where he's like trying to flex a little bit. Oh yeah,
like so he worked with Villeneuve. He's been in Blade Runner. He's been in, I mean, like, his role in Dune is a little kind of Drax again, but like, he was that depressed android. I'm not sure if you remember Blade Runner. You hated that movie, but remember in the opening of Blade Runner, what's his name? Ryan Gosling meets Bautista, and Bautista's like this jaded.
Yes.
Yeah, and I thought that was a very subdued role for Bautista. Very similar to this Leonard role, actually. Anything else? Any other expectations?
For me.
So when we first saw the trailer, I was like, what the fuck is this fake ass funny game shit? Because, like, big home invasion movie, they're all, like, you know, very poised and shit, and then, like, the thing that kind of made me go, like, hey, come on, man, was, like, the last shot of the trailer where somebody's face is covered and masked up, just like the kid who gets his head blown off in Funny Games. Very amazing scene. But I was like, what the fuck is this? So I was like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read Cabin at the End of the Woods. Cabin at the End of the World, which is what this movie is based off of, this Tremblay novel. This novelist I've never heard of. So I went through the book thinking, like, what is this really about? And to my surprise, I feel like the book is actually... It knows that funny games exist, it seems like. Yeah. It's not like M. Night was like aping Haneke or anything. It's the whole construction of the story, home invasion, 2 parents and a kid. Instead of 2 home invaders, it's 4, whatever. So I was like, oh, okay. But then there's a lot of nuance in the book. There's a lot of like, there's all of this stuff about belief and faith and love between family members. but also just does this thing that do you believe these strangers or don't you? And my favorite scene in the book, which made me super excited to see Bautista flex, is there's this scene where the two dads are, wrestling with Bautista, and one of the dads has a gun and is about to shoot Bautista, but Bautista basically clutches the gun, and they go through a back and forth, and the gun fires, and it kills the little girl. Very, very funny games. But after that, it's not that scene in particular, but it's the aftermath where the two dads flip the fuck out, and Leonard, who is Bautista, promised this little girl in the movie. He promised this little girl in the beginning of the story that she would never be harmed, and it's sort of very downplayed and very kind of everybody is in agreement with this, that nothing's gonna happen to this little girl, but she dies, and the parents are distraught, and Bautista's just pleading, saying sorry, and the author describes in the book that he's tearing up, and he's ugly crying, there's snot all over his face. So when I was going through this part, I was thinking oh my god, Bautista's gonna fucking kick ass at that scene. He's gonna flex, he's gonna cry, he's gonna ugly cry, he's gonna be oh my god, I'm so sorry. If I can't save this little girl, then why I can't even save the world, blah blah blah. So that was really exciting. I was super excited to see that scene. So as soon as we were able to, we drove to the theater and watched this movie. So Janet Chan, let's go through this movie beat for beat, act for act, and one special thing that's going to happen is I'll tell you wherever I can recall the differences between the book and the movie.
Okay, so starting with Act 1. When the little girl opens on her, she's collecting grasshoppers. Leonard arrives, meets Wend, and they have this little stranger danger thing, but then he kind of is really convincingly nice, so he ends up bonding with her by collecting grasshoppers together. His other crew members, friends arrive.
His coworkers arrive.
Yeah. Menacingly, they are holding strange weapon thingies. So Wen runs to her dad's to warn them that some random strangers are coming. The dads calmly, through the door, they tell Leonard and crew to go away, but Leonard and crew refuse, and they start breaking into the cabin, despite the family's attempt to keep them out. They're trying to lock the doors, lock the windows, but they break in. Basically, Andrew...
One of the dads beats up Ron Weasley, who is basically this guy named Redmond. Mm-hmm. So it all seems this guy's gonna get killed, this dad, but he actually can hold his own.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, he starts boxing the shit out of this dude. But then it turns out that his husband's subdued, got hit in the head, which is Daddy Eric, mm-hmm. right? Yes. And Wen is scooped up by Leonard.
Yes.
So they're officially out of control.
When Eric gets hit in the head, basically cuts to black. When he wakes up, they're bound basically to chairs. And that's when each of the members of Leonard's crew introduces themselves. Sabrina introduces herself. She's the one that hit Eric in the head. She is a nurse. And then Andrea is the youngest, kind of ditzy girl, and she is a cook. Leonard is a coach, and Redmond, I think, is a trucker. He kind of interrupts the whole empathy, trying to introduce themselves thing. But then Leonard's no, we need to introduce ourselves. We need to be nice about this, otherwise they won't believe us. So the dads, they assume this is some kind of homophobic attack on them. They're targeted.
And each one of them, except for Redmond, goes, I don't have a homophobic bone in my body. trying desperately to convince them that this isn't about that. This is about saving the world.
Right. So this is when Leonard basically gives them the premise of the rest of the movie, that the four of them are here to basically tell them that the three of them, the dads and Wen, have to decide which one of them is going to sacrifice themselves to save the world. Only they, the person who decides they're going to die, the others have to kill them. If they don't, then the world is going to end in a very specific way. Leonard and crew are not allowed to touch them or hurt them. They're just there to like help convince them.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, there's a time limit, and whenever Leonard decides, essentially, one of the four members of their crew has to die instead, I guess.
Well, I mean, Leonard doesn't decide. The parents have to be like, fuck you.
Yes.
And then
Leonard goes, okay, one of us has to die.
Yeah.
I guess. So that's end of Act 1.
We really yada through it, but that's pretty much
it's
everything.
There's nothing more to say other than home invasion happens, and
the rules of the game happen, basically.
Yeah.
So there's hardly any difference between the book and the movie here, other than it goes by a breakneck pace. And what I found really disturbing was the entire first chapter of the book is the encounter between Wen and Leonard Bautista, and the function of that seems so that it's this tender moment between the two of them and promising her that nothing bad will happen to her. But ultimately in the book, something does. So the fact that they rush through that scene I was thinking like, okay, maybe this is just how the movie is supposed to be. And, it's just supposed to be at a breakneck pace. And everything does happen a lot quicker than I envisioned it when I was reading the book. But I just chalked it up to movie magic, and this is how the vision of the movie is supposed to be. But it was a little alarming that, like, whoa, we're like, this is like really, really fast. Mm-hmm. And like overall, the movie doesn't feel that long, which like, maybe is a good thing. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Like, this is one of those instances where I wish there was more between Wen and Bautista.
Yes.
But yeah, this is the entirety of Act 1. This is kind of how it goes down.
Yeah, it doesn't, for, a horror movie, it doesn't really make me feel anxious for any of the characters here. I know no one's going to die at the beginning, but I also didn't feel threatened by any of the characters at this point. I don't actually feel threatened by any of the characters at all when they straight up say, we can't hurt you. So I was like, okay.
What are these big, scary weapons for?
Yeah, like I don't... Okay, whatever. So Act 1 is very for me. Like,
it's just setting up. So I just kind of want to go, okay, what happens next?
Yeah. You did. So while you were reading the book, you were giving me a lowdown of everything. And I remember when you were telling me the first, basically, beginning of the book, a huge chunk of the book is just Leonard catching grasshoppers with Wen, and it sets up so much, and it's such an important part, and it takes up most of the book. And when
it's the entire first chapter, but it's like a long chapter. It's like we're there for a while, but like in the movie, it's like 2 minutes tops. First time I've seen a Dutch shot in forever. Holy smokes! M. Night Shyamalan's bringing back the Dutch.
I definitely thought, when you described the scene to me in the book, you told me it comes across like, yes, there's some stranger danger at first, but they Leonard is supposed to really kind of become friends with Wen.
Yes.
But in the movie, it really does feel like stranger danger, and that's it. Like, I don't really get the sense that Wen 100% trusts this strange man.
Because in retrospect, like you think about that scene and what goes down, it's really Leonard's trying to make Wen feel secure and be her friend, even though he knows that really bad things are going to happen and hopes to God nothing bad happens to her. But we don't get that tenderness and that back and forth in the movie. It kind of just goes.
Yeah, you don't get to develop that sympathetic villain
Right,
thing
exactly.
with Leonard because it goes too fast. And you're too suspicious of him.
Right.
At the beginning. So Act 2 starts basically when the family is like, oh, these people are crazy. They've met on a message board, and they think this is end times. These are like crazy.
Wait, did we talk about Redmond dying?
He doesn't die yet. They're basically deciding whether or not to believe them.
Well, they mention the message board after Redmond dies.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
But well, regardless, they think these people are nuts.
Yes.
So the family basically has to choose then and there the first thing the first time, and then go like, no, you're nuts. We're never gonna choose. So to move the story along really quickly, they basically prove that this group of religious nuts, whatever they are really serious. So they put Redmond in a mask, some kind of thing that covers his face.
Almost like white pantyhose or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Very sheer. You could still kind of see the expression.
Yeah. And then they repeat some kind of
religious thing.
Yeah, like
about
humanity has been judged or something like that.
Yes. That's
and then they like hit him with their weapons. It cuts away, so that you don't actually see any gore or blood or whatever of the act of killing, I guess. But basically when they cut back, it's to be assumed that Redmond is dead, because the dads are like, oh my, they're like shocked that they had to witness someone dying in front of them.
Murder.
Yeah. So Leonard basically changes the channel on the TV to a news channel, and they're the crew is kind of hesitant at first. They're like, wait, this isn't exactly what we saw in our visions. And it's the news is saying like, oh, there's going to be some kind of tsunami that's hitting like Hawaii or something. But then in a few seconds, the news updates and it's like, oh no, another earthquake hit, and now there's going to be this giant tsunami that takes over like Portland and the entire West Coast. And then they see footage of like these giant waves, like disaster movie like, taking over the beach, and all these people are dying. So that's the first prophecy come to life. All the people in Leonard's crew are like, oh my god, that's exactly what I saw in my visions. Meanwhile, Andrew, the more suspicious dad, is
skeptical dad.
Yeah, is like, this was planned. This happened like hours ago. You, of course, like, you're looking at your watch, you're timing all of this. They knew this was going to happen. I don't believe you. And he's saying this kind of sort of to convince Eric, the other dad, that like, right, you think so too. But basically Leonard's like, it's okay, you don't have to believe us now, you have the rest of the night to think about it. We'll make the next decision tomorrow morning.
So he essentially gives them a break, but all the while Eric, he has basically a concussion. But luckily, one of them, Sabrina, is a nurse, so she takes Eric into the bathroom, and she's tending to his wounds. But also, I'm not sure if she knows or not, but like Eric is the more religious of the two, and more susceptible to all of this faith-based talk. So she's trying to convince Eric that this is real, that like she didn't believe it either. She didn't want to believe it, but she, through a string of events, is here now, and she needs this to happen. She needs one of them to choose, but Eric is not there yet. He is like, no, or is silent. And Sabrina basically finishes up, and Andrew sees Eric again, and then Andrew starts feeling like, oh, she didn't say anything to convince you, right? And Eric kind of gives a half-hearted no.
Yeah.
No. You know what I mean? So like there's a little bit of like sort of the seeds of doubt, a little bit, but not completely yet.
And this is my favorite scene in the entire movie.
Why is it your favorite scene?
Because technically, how did you do that? How did you do that, M. Night? Like, it's...
Explain what he did.
So, the scene, not only... So, I like beautifully shot smaller scenes, typically. I appreciate... M. Night does this thing where he has, usually in every single movie, one really crazy shot. Or a few sometimes, but at least one.
Can you give an example from another movie?
I forget. It's always something weird. It's like some weird pan or some weird like dolly crane shot. Like it's always like something like extra. Like, whoa, why did you do that?
Just to
so
do
try
it.
hard, yeah.
I just thought just now. I wonder if this was M. Night thinking about Terminator. Because like Sarah Connor's tending to this wound that Arnold has, and James Cameron does the same thing. He does.
Oh,
remember?
Maybe.
But I don't know. It does the same exact thing though, right? It's like that we're looking through a mirror, but we're in this perspective where we should be seeing the camera.
Yeah.
I don't know if he CG'd the camera or used some practical trickery, but it looked. It looked like we were like this omniscient thing seeing this mirror.
Right. It like the whole really, I guess, empathetic plea is done through a mirror, which is very Bergman. Instead of, on them, you're looking at a reflection in a mirror, except you're centered in the shot. And if you set up the camera centered in the shot like that, the camera's going to be in the shot. But the characters are perfectly composed, centered. So I'm like, how did you do that? Unless you CG'd or you did something to hide the camera. It's like someone behind like a hole or something. But I'm like, there's no way that their heads or their shoulders would be in the shot if it was behind them.
Could
somehow.
they have done the thing where it's just the wall and with a big circle cut on it with a frame, and then the actors are behind the wall?
The way it is, it looked like he was using like some kind of maybe 50 millimeter lens, and because the space
so it's compressed.
was very compressed. So, and then the way it was, it looked like it was in front of them. If in technicality, if you were to put the camera where it looked like it was supposed to be in front of them, like right below them as they're like tending to his wound, but it wasn't there. So I was like, where is the camera? And the lighting was just beautiful.
It was like Twilight, right?
It was golden hour, and the light was slightly over, so it was blooming a little bit, and it was exposed for the shadow, and I was like, oh, that's really beautiful. It reminds me of like things you would see in like The Village. As much as I don't love The Village, it's a beautiful movie.
It's really pretty watching it again.
So that was a really cool shot, and just like a nice like emotional storytelling thing. The other stuff, like there's a Dutch that happens later on, I'm like, too much. It's too much for my taste.
I'm not ready to see those again yet.
Yeah. Okay, so next morning, Andrea makes Wen breakfast. Andrea's basically trying to be buddy-buddy with Wen.
Also, before this, Wen tries to escape, but then Leonard captures her and is like, you need to stay. Very inconsequential.
Yeah.
I don't understand the point of her trying to escape just to get back to where she was. So that happened. So next morning.
Yeah. So Wen doesn't seem like she's buying Andrea's niceness. So, but in it, she takes a knife from breakfast and basically hands it to Eric, who basically starts trying to cut himself loose. It is now Andrea's time to die, if they choose to she makes a plea to save her son.
Around this is when they talk about the message board, And Daddy Andrew realizes that this guy Redmond could be this guy O'Bannon, right? Is this where this happens?
I think so.
Yeah. So what happens is they start bickering with each other because the parents don't want to choose, and then they slip up. I think Andrea slips up that they kind of communicated through a message board, which Andrew and Eric look at each other like they're a bunch of QAnon nuts. So all of this kind of triggers a memory that Daddy Andrew has of when he was in Boston, I think. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it was Boston.
I don't remember the location.
But when they were in the city together, way before they adopted when they were still falling in love, they were at a bar and they were just chatting. And there's this guy who comes behind them and says, "Could you please be quiet?" And then Daddy Andrew's like, "Fuck you," blah, blah, blah. He's like kind of the hothead of the two. And Eric is more of like the loving kind of faith person. So they keep talking, and then the guy who told them to be quiet smashes the beer bottle over Andrew's head. And then we cut to a surgery shot of basically a nurse tending to his wound. And then all of this makes Andrew very angry and makes him want to defend himself. So he takes up boxing classes, hence why he beat the shit out of Redmond / O'Bannon in the beginning. And he buys a gun. And I assume just so that something like that would never happen again. So he's basically telling the crew, Leonard's crew, that there was this guy named O'Bannon who basically hate crimed me. And I think that the guy Redmond, your guy, is that guy. And it sort of sows the seeds of doubt in Leonard's crew as to like, oh, we did, like, I think Andrea asked Leonard, like, didn't you like look into this person? Right? Like how Tim Pool should have looked into Jack Murphy. Like,
or Liza.
Or Liza. But like Leonard's like, no, it doesn't matter. He's dead. Is what
like we had visions.
We had visions. It doesn't matter. So that put a pin on that little revelation because it'll come back later.
Well, so in the movie, it was very subtle. The hate crime. They were.
We can talk about that in the after act.
Oh, okay.
We can talk about it. You want to talk about it now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, yeah. So in the book, it's so much more overt, the hate crime. He says something very, very unpleasant to the two, more than just, what you call that? Would you please be quiet? Which is actually kind of, it comes off as polite, or they're being inconsiderate. You know, it doesn't come... Yeah. And then, like, the smashing of the beer bottle, I mean, like, you could assume it's a hate crime, but, like, in the book, it's overtly a hate crime. So... It makes the motivations for Andrew make a lot more sense because because of this, he has this whole chip on his shoulder about anybody who could be perceived like this O'Bannon person, whether they're religious, whether they're of a certain political leaning or whatever. It's almost like it becomes his prejudice over other people, which kind of shows up in the book a few other times. But in the movie, it's so much more vanilla. Yeah. And like this is something that keeps happening in the movie that like clearly there's no, I don't think, I want to believe M. Night could have like went this far. He could, and like but it felt like he was pulling punches. I'm sure like maybe it's some producer who wanted to make the movie more vanilla and more easy for people to watch, but like I don't know, like it's kind of it feels real life to me. It feels really like you kind of need it to be heavy, but instead it was sort of self-conscious and kind of not willing to cross certain things. And mind you, the book isn't even that like intense. It's just like these are things that happen that the movie decided not to go all the way with. The scene in the movie is like the dads are having this really kind of romantic declaration of their love in this bar. But it's just like a really a thing couples do when you're like, oh, I love you so much and I can't believe we're gonna like adopt a child or something like that. And then
this guy basically says like, "Can you be quiet? You're some of us are like trying to enjoy ourselves," and it's implied that he does. Andrew is like, "I'm sorry. Is our conversation upsetting you for some reason? Why is this conversation upsetting?" And so it's implied that this guy is like kind of homophobic, but like it can be taken as like, you don't know that though. It could just be he wanted you to be quiet. But you told me in the book he says a slur towards gay people that starts with an F. So you can imagine how like it's obviously a hate crime.
Yeah, and then it makes you empathize with Andrew 1,000,000 times more because like this is fucked up, and then like him taking boxing lessons and having a gun is you understand why he wants to go that far. Whereas in the movie, it's just like, okay, it just feels like it just doesn't have the impact that I imagined it to be. And this keeps happening in the movie, where like these parts in the book, which I didn't even think was very good, these intense parts of the book are very watered down in the movie.
Normally, I would think that kind of thing is in poor taste, but to kind of, I think it's interesting to do that to these characters in particular because they have
these hang-ups that make them not want to participate in this thing even more.
Yeah. To be like, well, I have this weird prejudice against religious redneck type people, therefore, like it's an interesting take that I don't think I've seen before, talked about. So I just thought, oh, what a missed opportunity.
I think it's just like a good source of conflict that like this person has this hang up. Meanwhile, these appearingly religious looking people are like, oh, but you need to believe us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
please,
It's just an extra layer of conflict that they didn't push far enough. Therefore, the movie just doesn't have enough salt.
It doesn't have enough conflict in general to make the story interesting. So cut back to Andrea's making this plea because Leonard's like, oh, it doesn't matter if he's O'Bannon or Redmond. We saw visions, so we still have to continue. So, Andrea, you're up. And then she makes this plea about how, like,
I have a kid, man.
I have a kid. I have a son. And the dads are inclined to not believe her because they're like, well, I don't know if O'Bannon is O'Bannon or Redmond. Like, I don't even believe you have a son, essentially. So they don't decide then. So they kill Andrea. They turn on the TV again, and this time there's some kind of X9 virus pandemic thing that's been attacking people, but now it's getting worse. It specifically targets children, but it's still not enough to convince Andrew and Eric that this is like some kind of prophecy, because Andrew is like, I've known about this for months, and like you could have known that, and you would have timed the news or whatever, and like just you like this has been a thing. Like this isn't new information. You're not convincing me of anything. So this is when Eric basically gives Wen an assignment to create a diversion. Wen starts throwing a tantrum. Leonard and whoever is left is distracted.
And Leonard does this whole like, I'm a coach. I know how to deal with these situations. Wen, let's count to 5. And then Wen's like, ah! And then Leonard's like, oh, this isn't working. Wen, let's try again. Let's count to 5. And then I think does Eric break free yet? Yeah. So Eric breaks free, and he's like also creating a distraction. So both the last two parties of Leonard's are occupied. Meanwhile, Andrew also breaks loose and then sneakily goes to the door. He goes to the door and then goes to the car, because I think they mentioned in the beginning of the movie, we forgot to say, that the gun that he bought after the O'Bannon incident is in the car. So he's trying to sneakily get out of the house, go into the car, but Sabrina notices, so she's like, hey, what the fuck? So as Andrew is about to go into the car and open the door, he gets hit in the leg, and then he distracts Sabrina some more by throwing dirt on her face. So Andrew goes inside, gets the gun after a few like kind of like dropping some bullets here and there, gets stabbed in the side like Jesus, and then he basically has a warning shot to Sabrina, and Sabrina flips the fuck out because no one realized that they would have a gun, so she drops her weapon and runs away. And then Andrew hobbles towards back to the house, and then sees Leonard with his family, and couldn't help himself, so he checks on Redmond's wallet. So he basically takes the wallet and realizes that, holy shit, it's actually O'Bannon. So Andrew goes inside the house, sees Bautista, and goes like, hey, yo, motherfucker, I told you this dude was O'Bannon. And then Bautista has this whole like, oh shit look on his face. But then you hear it's Sabrina about to do something really bad to Andrew, and Andrew shoots her right in the gut.
Yeah.
Right in the gut.
So Leonard, while he's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter, Redmond, O'Bannon, whatever, it's time for the next sacrifice. Conveniently, Sabrina dies. So Leonard uses her as the next sacrifice. And now it's just Leonard. So he tells Andrew and family to turn on the TV. Andrew's like, don't turn on the TV. Eric turns on the TV. Andrew's like, why did you turn on the TV? But Eric and Wen are watching the TV, and now planes are falling out of the sky for no reason.
This is where Bautista goes up to the TV and basically recites word for word, proving that he's had this vision before of what the newscaster's saying about these incidents of these airplanes falling from the sky. But I forgot who. I think is it Andrew who throws something? Yeah, throws something at the TV. So there's no more TV.
Yeah. Leonard is like, well, I'm last, so let's take this outside.
Wait. He has to smash Sabrina's face in first, right?
Yeah, I said he.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But then, like, there's this whole suspense scene where they lock Leonard into the house bathroom, which is very important because I was like, this is it. This is fucking it right now. So Leonard's in the bathroom, and then this is where the family tries to escape, and then they hear a crack from the window, so they check up on the bathroom, and now there's like a big old hole in the window. But then I'm thinking, maybe the audience is thinking, maybe they're thinking like, Batista's not gonna, he's a little too big to fit through that window. But then like there's like this shower curtain that's draped over, and Andrew becomes very suspicious of the curtain, so he fires a warning shot or a shot into the curtain. Nothing happens, so he checks for himself, and as soon as he starts to draw the curtain, top-down shot of Bautista, right, going and attacking Andrew, and then there's like a big ol' wrestling match
for the gun,
and then eventually Bautista takes the gun,
yes,
which kind of puts him in control again,
yes,
and then makes me feel like they're not gonna go all the way, yes, with the whole reason why I wanted to watch this movie in the first place.
He basically is like, okay, let's take this outside. I'm next. They go outside. The dads tell Wen to go to the tree house with her CD player and headphones, and they'll get her when everything is over. So Wen is out of the picture now. Leonard sits down and basically has this empathetic plea of like, I'm doing this for the children, because he's a coach and he shows them pictures of the kids that he coaches and how much he cares about the kids. He asks them one last time, they don't decide, so he's like, okay, so he cuts his own throat, which it also kind of sort of cuts away, and then you kind of sort of see the aftermath of it later.
Even the Sabrina thing, like, it all cuts a...
Yeah, every death is cut away.
Yeah.
So he dies.
That's the end.
And that's the end
of Act 2.
Of Act 2. Yes.
Okay, so a few little pieces of fun little trivia. There's this TV show that Wen is watching, and in the book, it's actually she's watching Steven Universe, but then Leonard says the exact same thing, but to this other TV show in the movie, which I think belongs to Universal, of like, oh, I can see that this TV show teaches you about empathy and teaches you how to be a respectful kid or some shit. And that's actually in the book, but I thought it was really funny that like I didn't know this was a Universal movie, and I was like thinking like, how the fuck are they gonna get a WB HBO Cartoon Network TV show, which is Steven Universe. And Tremblay in the book goes to like great lengths to explain the crystal gems and stupid fucking Steven. And then like there's even the cameo in the book with Adventure Time.
Oy.
But like that doesn't show up in the Universal movie for obvious reasons. Other differences, there is a scene in the middle of the night where they take a break where Leonard confesses to Wen that these visions are from what he thinks are from God, and Wen shares that with the family. I'm not sure if that, would fit into the movie or if it makes any difference, but that's like a small difference. And I think a really big difference, there's a lot of really big differences here, but like one big one is we never actually in the book find out if Redmond is O'Bannon. And I personally like that choice because it's this cloud of doubt that hangs over the family, over the couple actually, throughout the entire story. I really don't know why he had to confirm that it was O'Bannon for the movie, other than for whatever reason.
Make the audience feel better.
Yeah, I guess make the audience feel better, but I actually thought it was very suspenseful and like sort of like they in the book they kind of talk about at the end, and like Eric has to bend over backwards to convince Andrew that like I believe you, it was totally O'Bannon and all that stuff, which I kind of liked from the book. Another weird thing, and I guess I understand why, because you want to eliminate everyone really quickly, is they kind of shifted around the roles of Andrea and Sabrina. Instead of Sabrina charging in and her getting shot, I think it was actually Andrea, because Sabrina is lost in the woods, or like you don't hear from her for a while in the story until after Wen gets killed in the book. So she comes back and then witnesses all that happen, and then it's actually Leonard who is the second to the last to die. And in the book, Sabrina helps them in the third act find Redmond's car to basically escape or whatever, because in the book she has this realization that like there's no point in this, is all futile. Like if Wen's dead, and if we couldn't save a little girl, then what's the point, what's the worth of saving the entire world or whatever. And I thought that was really interesting because in the book there's mutiny. Somebody's like, fuck this shit, I don't want to do this shit anymore. I thought that was really neat, but it's not in the movie, which I thought was really like, what the fuck. So yes, that's as far as I could remember the differences between the book and the movie.
But
the big one is that they don't kill off Wen. I remember telling you that when I got to the part where Wen dies, I was like, this book pulls a fucking Haneke.
Yes.
Fucking the girl dies. And it's really ugly, like the scene of like the fathers crying and over their dead child, and not Redmond, Leonard going like, if I couldn't save Wen, then what's the point of saving the world? And I promised Wen all this stuff. He's ugly crying, like I said, it's not coming out of his nose. And I really wanted this scene to happen because it would give Bautista so much to do. It would require so much of Bautista to really act, and I've never seen him flex that hard as to be broken in a scene. That's never happened in his career yet, and I thought this was like the role for him. I believe in Bautista. I believe he'll get better roles after this. But like that was the one scene that I was like, why didn't you go all the way to do that? Because it could have been like a scene. It is like the best scene in the book.
Yes.
I'd say. I hated the ending. I didn't care much for the most of the book because I saw it in the trailer. But like this one scene in particular, it was the only scene that took me by surprise, and it was the only scene that I found like really gut-wrenching and heart-wrenching. And I was really disappointed. really disappointed it wasn't in the movie.
So my main problems with the movie are in Act 2 because, unfortunately, because you read it and you like conveyed what you read to me, I knew going in because you told me that Shyamalan changed certain things about the story from the book, and I was like, oh, I'm curious what it could be. You thought it was definitely going to be the ending because the ending is kind of weak in the book.
Yeah, the ending is kind of weak in the book, but it's also because it's a book, we don't know for certain if because it's there's so much. I think doubt is a huge part of the story that like that all of the stuff that they're saying is true, because when Andrew says like this is all fake, this could be faked, or I need to believe that this is fake, and the book describes that the sky is like, you know, all cloudy and it looks like end times, but there's no certainty to it. But you can't bring that ambiguity to a movie.
Yeah.
You see a plane fall, you see kids struck with this virus, you have to see this tidal wave that eliminates a shit ton of people. Mm-hmm. So there's no doubt anymore. So it kind of forces the director, the storytellers in the movie to choose, to pick. And that's why I was like, oh, he has to do something different at the end of this movie.
But there are a lot of other themes of the story that I found really interesting that they, for whatever reason, went really soft on. And it seems to me like, because I've seen Shyamalan's other movies, I don't think it's his fault, even though he has writing credit on this movie.
Dark things happens in his movie, like the family getting captured in Unbreakable, or that weird vain woman in Old getting all crumpled in the cave. Remember that?
Yeah,
it was really disturbing. So he's not one to shy away from difficult scenes.
Yeah, as a director, especially someone who likes to call himself a writer, director, auteur, you know, that kind, I think both artists, directors, actors would really bite into a scene like that, and they'd be really excited to have that to work with. I think it was an executive decision.
I agree.
To eliminate Wen dying, because they thought,
this is too heavy. The audience isn't gonna like this.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite scene in Funny Games, man.
Yeah. And but the thing is, as we were plotting out this movie, I was like, eliminating that scene eliminates the climax of Act 2. If you know the hero's journey plot chart graph thing, when she dies, that's the protagonist hit their all-time low, and the villain too, and so it would be natural to go for that to enter Act 3, and it would give this like up and down roller coaster ride that a movie is supposed to give you, all this conflict. This movie takes away every single conflict that you're supposed to have, including the religious conflict. Mm-hmm. They took away almost every religious theme in this movie, in this story.
Until the very end, where it's convenient.
Yeah.
That like, oh, this is what I believe or whatever. But in the book, Andrew, it's explicit that Eric goes to church still, and you know the non-belief thing that the couple have is kind of like not a big point of conflict, but it's sort of like a point of contention that like one of them is a non-believer, one of them is.
Yeah. Or like, and it makes it so like one of them is more inclined to believe these strange home invaders, and one of them isn't. And then the Act 2, the main point of Act 2 is the dads are supposed to get into arguments constantly. Like, if I were writing this movie, the point is like, do we believe or not believe? To make it so sure that O'Bannon is O'Bannon. to make everything so clear and easy for the audience to be like, oh yeah, hate the homophobic dude. Because he's so clearly the guy, like, the doubt, the uncertainty, the fighting that should happen between the dads, ultimately to lead to them to choose whether one of them should die or not, and then to suddenly be like, oh no, our daughter died. Like, all of that, you just took away all of that. You took away the conflict of them fighting, you took away the conflict of the girl dying, you took away the conflict of religion. So what is left here to motivate me, the audience, to care? Nothing. So I was just like, okay, I don't. At end of Act 2, I still don't really care about anyone dying, really. And you don't even give me good kills.
Yeah, come on, man.
You told me, you described to me some of the kills in the book.
Oh my god, it's brutal. When Sabrina kills Leonard, the writer goes into detail that, like, his brain matter is on her tool and shit. And I was just like, rock and roll, dude. Let's see that shit come to action. Let's see some cool shit. And none of that shit. We all cut away throughout every gory scene. I'm just like, this is a rated R movie. At least make me feel that visceral feeling of like, oh my god, like they mean business.
Yeah.
To cut away is so, I don't know, you're not giving me that thrill, you're not giving me that sense of danger. That's like, you're not making me feel like anyone's in danger, even though you're suggesting they are. Make me imagine that this could happen to the family.
Yeah. Cutting away is a device to basically imply the brutality of what is happening is so brutal that your imagination will make up something worse than you could possibly show them.
But in the
this
movie
instance, it doesn't work that way. It actually
feels
does
like
the
you're
opposite.
afraid to.
Yeah. And I go like, you literally took away the horror of every aspect of this movie. You took away the horror of a child potentially dying in the dangerous situation of home invaders. You took away the horror of, like, crazy religious people coming to hurt you, and you don't know if they are awful
sane or whatever.
Yeah. You took away the horror of seeing a murder happen in front of you. You want to put the audience in their shoes, and you're literally taking away that ability for the audience to do that. So I'm like, so this is not horrific at all to me. This is, like, super, super safe, super, super, like, just whatever. The only thing that I like about the way all of this is depicted is that the dads being gay is treated very realistically. Usually I really hate the way people depict gay characters in movies because they treat them like a joke. They always make them so flamboyantly gay that it comes across kind of comedic. And I'm just like, I know a lot of gay people in my life, and they don't behave that way.
Gay adults act like adults.
They act like human beings. Yes. Not with three-dimensionality.
Right.
And in this movie, I felt like they treated gays people, like people. And not like some kind of token character for once. And I appreciate that.
Like, look, he's gay.
Yeah. Oh, look. He says, yes, queen. I'm just like...
But, like, it ain't no thing.
Yeah,
this is just a family that loves each other.
Yeah.
They adopt this girl. It's no big deal.
Yeah. Which I appreciated. So that's the only thing I appreciated about Act 1 and 2. Okay, so...
Let's finish up Act 3. It ain't very long.
Yes, Act 3, basically like 10 minutes long.
The shortest Act 3 I've seen in a long time.
Now that Leonard is dead, lightning is striking the earth, like it's clearly end times. So
right behind Andrew, there's this airplane that falls from the sky and crashes somewhere.
So Andrew and Eric are like, I think we need to decide, essentially. Eric basically is like, I believe I saw a figure behind, like, basically he's like, I saw God in the light, and I think I'm willing to sacrifice myself. Andrew's like, no, I don't believe, but then he technically does believe at this point. But the end decision comes down to Eric says, for when, essentially. I can see her, you two growing old, and you're happy.
And we see
together.
like this fantasy flash forward of Andrew salt and pepper, but then Wen is all grown up and they're talking, and
she's successful
and she's laughing, and yeah,
and everything's good. So Andrew shoots Eric.
Andrew also says that he believes that the four people are like the four horse riders of the apocalypse or something like that.
But that's just so.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah,
you know?
in your face.
And I don't think they actually he mentions that in the book, but it's just so, I don't know, it's so on the nose. But I guess to tie up loose ends, I guess.
Yeah. So Andrew shoots Eric. Andrew goes to the treehouse. Wen basically says, "Did Daddy Eric save everyone?" And then Andrew starts crying. Together because earlier the crew slashed their tires, so Andrew and Wen have to walk to civilization. They arrive at this diner where everyone's watching the news, and it seems like everything is going back to normal. They find Redmond's car, and
the calamity stops out of nowhere, just like The Happening.
Yes. And he sees like everyone was who they said they were. Sabrina was a nurse. Andrea had a picture of her son. So everyone was who they were. And so basically saying like, yes, they were telling the truth, and Eric didn't die for nothing, essentially. Such a sure ending here. And then the two of them get in the car, and that's it, essentially.
They drive into the sunset. And I will tell you how it ends in the book. So after Wen dies and Leonard gets killed by Sabrina's like, fuck all this shit. I'm going to help you guys escape, and I'm even going to tell the cops what's happened so that you guys aren't responsible for all the bodies that are left over there. So Sabrina basically leads them to Redmond's car, to O'Bannon's car, which is similar to the movie, that they find it, but like in the book, Sabrina leads them there. But to find the keys, Sabrina has to dig through this hole, and through the hole she finds the keys, but she also finds another gun, I guess a spare gun that Redmond hid just in case for whatever. And then all of this is happening meanwhile, like it really seems kind of obvious to the couple that the world is about to end, and they bicker about like, this is a huge part of the book too. Wen's death doesn't count because it was involuntary. So like they're really mulling over that, going like, I don't want to save a world where like our precious child's death wasn't enough for this goddamn world and all that stuff. And Sabrina's like I think it's time. I think you guys actually really need to for real choose. So she shoots herself in the book. And then very much like the scene between Andrew and Eric, they have this whole like back and forth about also the whole vision about like their future with or a life with Wen, and all that stuff shows up too. But in the book, it's ambiguous as to which one dies, and it's ambiguous as to if the world actually ended or not. It kind of ends, and you don't know if the world has ended or not, which I like. For however convenient I thought the movie ending was, I thought the book ending was really unsatisfying because we just don't know. So there you go. So, both endings not the best.
But at least
I really don't know how you could have ended this story, though. I really don't.
But at least one story has the drama of a child dying.
Yes,
so.
and the conflict and the sadness and the tragedy. You don't really get a lot of that in the movie.
Yeah. So I don't have any particular feelings about Wen as an actress. She's fine. I have noticed that M. Night likes to have child actors in his movies. In almost every single movie, he has a child actor. And he seems pretty good at directing them because
the only one I can recall is The Village. Doesn't have a child actor.
But the kid in Sixth Sense was really, really good. And most of the time, the child actors in his movies are really handled very well. For me, Wen's pretty good most of the movie. It's just a story thing that I thought was kind of curious at the end there, where she goes, "Did Daddy Eric save everyone?" And I go like, now that is a line a child would not say after she finds out one of her dads is not alive. Like, one of your parents just died, and you're like, oh, it's totally fine because he saved the world. And then I was like, I imagined a scenario in my head. I was like, the only kind of person that says something like that is someone who's very proud to have a superhero dad who died for the cause, I guess.
But I feel like if this were real life, even though logic would strike this kid of like, well, it had to happen, it would be awful.
Yeah.
It would be awful, and you wouldn't kind of accept it until so much later on that this had to happen. So
you'd be resentful.
You'd be resentful of it, a lot of things, and she just kind of mopes, barely mopes. Yeah, she just kind of like, but like, I don't know. I would imagine Wen would be distraught, crying, really fucking upset and confused and mad, but she just kind of goes along for the rest of the ride. She just kind of shrugs it and goes like, my dad's dead.
I have one dad now, like everyone else. And I go like, I imagine a scenario where like this is something she brags about for the rest of her life. Did you know my dad died to save you? I'm just like, oh god, this was just so unrealistic, especially how happy she is at the end.
You didn't really like how Andrew was portrayed, right? Like, you really liked Eric.
I liked Eric, who
we also loved him in Mindhunter.
Yeah,
so good.
I really like him as an actor. He really comes across as like a loving dad who's scared for his child. Andrew as an actor is okay in the more like physical stuff, but in terms of like as a dad, he didn't act like a dad. He acted like a friend or an uncle. Like, dads act in a certain way. Like, they're very protective of their child, and he was very like the way a babysitter treats Wen. And it's just not convincing to me.
What did you want? What choices could have been made to make it better?
I forget what you told me, like one of the dads is more protective than the other or whatever, but like that doesn't mean like he's not loving or like he isn't protective in his own way. So like I noticed Eric is a lot more like, honey, like close your eyes, hold on to me, like it's gonna be okay, don't worry, like very compassionate, like that, like the more like caretaking dad. But like a more stoic dad is still protective. So when Wen is like sitting on his lap and scared, he would still be like, he would say something to like try to protect her even if he's bound, but he didn't. He just kind of like sits there and like yells at Leonard, I guess. Like he
was really preoccupied with like the whole situation,
rather
really
than like normally a dad would be preoccupied about
making sure the child is safe, right?
Regardless if you're stoic or whatever. So that was something that like took me out of it a little bit. I was like, especially at the beginning when Wen runs up to them and is like, oh my god, she's like freaking out, like there's strangers, they're come to like hurt us, and then both of them are just kind of like, our child being weird. I'm like,
that's kind of how it is in the book, but yeah.
For me, I thought like when a child, you can tell the difference when like a child is like being dramatic and like when they're genuinely like distressed by something. Right. I think as a parent you could tell the difference, and I thought it was weird that they're like, oh yeah, your concern is not my concern.
We didn't go on this vacation to be concerned.
So yeah, movie was mid and watered down.
You see, this is what I get for getting my expectations high, man.
If you like this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, jingle all our bells and buttons, and check out these other episodes for all our other episodes, and I'll see you next time.